The Galactic Council of Elders met in their great crystal chamber. 12 ancient beings from the oldest species in the Milky Way sat around a table made of light. They had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. Peace was their goal. Order was their way. Elder Zilvan raised a hand with 6 long fingers. The Vexari ships moved closer to human space each cycle. They must be warned again. They will not listen, said Elder Toll. The Vexari never listen. Then we must try harder, Zilvan insisted. The humans must not be provoked. The other elders nodded. All knew the warning passed down through generations. Never provoke the humans of Sol 3. When young species asked why, the elders would simply say, they are different. Far from the council chamber, Admiral Krazik of the Vexari Dominion stood on the bridge of his warship. His scaled skin gleamed under the lights, and his 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the star map. The human systems have what we need, he told his officers. Their asteroid belt in Proxima b holds more minerals than 10 of our mining worlds combined. But Admiral, said his second-in-command, the Council of Elders has warned all species to avoid conflict with humans. Krazik made a sound like stones grinding together. It was how the Vexari laughed. Superstition. The humans control barely 12 star systems. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are weak. What do we have to fear? The elders say they are different. The officer insisted. The elders are old and afraid of change, Krazik said. Prepare the fleet. We take Proxima b in 3 days. On Earth's lunar colony, Captain Frank Miller walked through the curved hallways of Command Center Alpha. The artificial gravity made his steps light, but today his shoulders felt heavy. A strange feeling had followed him all day. Humans called it a bad feeling, a sense that something was wrong. His wrist device beeped. Captain Miller, urgent message from Proxima b mining station. Frank touched the device. Put it through. The face of Lisa Young appeared. She was the chief of the mining operation at Proxima b. Her eyes were wide with fear. Captain Miller, we're under attack. Unknown ships just destroyed our outer sensors. They're not responding to. The screen went blank. Frank ran to the command center. 50 men and women worked at screens and control panels in the large round room. All movement stopped when Frank entered. Sound the alert, he ordered. Get me a direct line to Earth Command. And find out what's happening at Proxima b. Alarms rang through the lunar colony. Red lights flashed in every hallway and room. Sir, called one of the officers, we've lost all contact with Proxima b. Last data shows 5 unknown vessels entering the system. Frank's bad feeling grew worse. How many people at the mining station? 327. Sir. Frank closed his eyes for a moment. This was it. The peace that humanity had known for 150 years was ending. Sir, Earth Command is responding. Admiral Johnson is online. On the main screen appeared the face of Admiral Patricia Johnson. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and her eyes were sharp. Captain Miller, what's the situation? Proxima b mining station is under attack. Unknown forces. We lost contact with Chief Young mid-message. Admiral Johnson was silent for 3 seconds. Are we sure it's an attack? Could it be a natural event or equipment failure? Chief Young used the word attack directly, Admiral. She reported ships that destroyed their sensors. Admiral Johnson nodded once. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the United Space Federation. The President will need to be informed. Captain Miller, prepare your best team. If this is confirmed as an attack, you'll be our first response. Yes, Admiral. The screen went dark. Frank turned to his officers. Check our weapons systems. Prepare all ships for possible deployment. And keep trying to contact Proxima b. As the officers rushed to obey, Frank looked out the large window at the stars. Out there, something had changed. Someone had crossed a line that hadn't been crossed in generations. Someone had provoked humanity. Admiral Krazik watched from his command ship as the human mining station on Proxima b burned. The Vexari attack had been quick and effective. Their first strike had destroyed the communications array. The second had disabled the station's defensive shields. Now, the humans were trapped. "Scan for life signs," Krasik ordered. An officer with pale blue scales tapped at a control panel. 312 human life signs detected, Admiral. Most are gathered in the central chambers. Good. They will make useful workers in our new mining operation. Krasik turned to his second-in-command. Any response from Earth? None, Admiral. It seems they are not even aware of our attack yet. Krasik made his grinding laugh again. As I said, weak and slow. The elders worry for nothing. On Earth, the United Space Federation had gathered in the large meeting room in New Washington. President Alan Davis sat at the head of a long table. Admiral Patricia Johnson stood next to a screen showing the last known images from Proxima b. "The attack began 6 hours ago," she said. "We've confirmed 5 enemy ships of unknown design. They've jammed all communications in the system." General Kevin Clark, a tall man with a shaved head, spoke next. "We can have a battle group ready in 12 hours. The U.S. Defender is already being prepared." President Davis looked around the table. "Do we know who's attacking us, or why?" Dr. Susan Wright, the Federation's expert on alien cultures, stood up. "Based on the ship designs from the limited images we have, they appear to be Vexari vessels. The Vexari Dominion controls 17 systems in the Orion Arm. They are known to be aggressive and expansionist. Have we had any contact with them before?" the President asked. "No, sir. But the Galactic Council has warned all species to respect territorial boundaries. The Vexari have ignored those warnings before." President Davis was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "We need to attempt communication before we commit to military action. Protocol demands one chance for peace." Admiral Johnson nodded. "I recommend we send the UNS Horizon. It's our best diplomatic vessel, equipped with all known translation systems." "Who will lead the mission?" asked the President. "I will," said Dr. Wright. "I studied all available information on Vexari language and customs. If anyone can establish communication, I can." 24 hours later, the UNS Horizon entered the edge of Proxima b system. The sleek silver ship was unarmed, carrying only the strongest shields for protection. Dr. Susan Wright stood on the bridge with Captain Eric Brown. "We're receiving a transmission from one of the Vexari ships," said the communications officer. "Put it through," ordered Captain Brown. The main screen filled with the image of Admiral Krasik. His 4 eyes blinked at the humans. Dr. Wright stepped forward. "I am Dr. Susan Wright of Earth, representing the United Space Federation. We come in peace to discuss the situation at our mining colony." Krasik's upper eyes narrowed. "Your mining colony is now under Vexari control. Your miners will serve the Dominion. The Federation requests the immediate release of our citizens and withdrawal of your forces," Dr. Wright continued calmly. "We wish to resolve this matter peacefully." "There is nothing to resolve," said Krasik. "The resources of this system now belong to the Vexari. If you want peace, do not return to this system." Captain Brown moved beside Dr. Wright. "Be warned that any hostile action against this diplomatic vessel will be considered an act of war against all humanity." Krasik made his grinding laugh. "You threaten the Vexari Dominion with war. Your species controls a mere handful of systems. You have no allies. Your technology is primitive. What could you possibly do to us?" Before Dr. Wright could respond, alarms sounded on the bridge. "Captain," called the sensor officer. "2 Vexari ships are moving to intercept us. They're charging weapons." "Raise shields to maximum," ordered Captain Brown. "Prepare for emergency jump." Dr. Wright tried once more. "Admiral Krasik, please reconsider." "The Galactic Council." "The Council has no authority over the Vexari," Krasik interrupted. "And soon, neither will humanity." The screen went dark. "Vexari ships firing," shouted the sensor officer. The UNS Horizon shook as energy blasts struck its shields. "Shields at 60%, reported an officer. "We can't take another hit like that." "Jump drive charging," said another. 30 seconds to jump. Captain Brown gripped his chair. "Hold on. We need to get this information back to Earth." The ship rocked again as another blast hit them. Shields failing. The last thing transmitted to Earth from the UNS horizon was a single message from Captain Brown. Diplomacy failed. "The Vexeri have fired on a diplomatic vessel. God help us all." Then the signal went dead. The news of the UNS Horizon's destruction reached Earth within hours. Captain Brown's final message played on screens in homes, businesses, and public spaces around the world and across all human colonies. There were no riots, no panic in the streets. Instead, a strange quiet fell over humanity. President Davis addressed the Federation from the Oval Office in New Washington. His face was grim but calm. "Today, we have been attacked without cause," he said. "Our peaceful attempt at communication was met with violence. The Vexeri have taken our people as prisoners. They have destroyed our diplomatic vessel. They have mistaken our desire for peace as weakness. Today, we prove them wrong." He pressed a button on his desk. "As of this moment, I am declaring a state of war against the Vexari Dominion. May God have mercy on them, for we shall not." Across all human systems, something happened that the Vexeri had not expected. Within 72 hours, factories that made cars began making tanks. Companies that built household robots started building combat drones. Civilian ships were fitted with armor plating and weapon systems. The Vexeri had spies watching the human response. They sent reports back to Admiral Krasik, now overseeing the new mining operation on Proxima B. "The humans move with unusual speed and purpose," one spy reported. "Their entire economy has shifted to war production in just 3 days." "They are still just humans," Krasik said. "Their weapons cannot match ours. Their ships move at half our speed." "There is something else, Admiral," the spy added. "They do not seem afraid. There is no panic, no disorder. It is as if they expected this." At the USF Academy on Mars, Professor Jack Taylor gave his final class. The old man had spent 40 years teaching military history. Now he was returning to active duty. "I am 73 years old," he told his students. "I hoped to never see another war. But here we are." A young student raised her hand. "Professor, how can we possibly win against the Vexari? Their technology is far beyond ours." Professor Taylor smiled. "Throughout human history, our greatest advances have come during our darkest hours. When humans are backed into a corner, we don't give up. We get creative." He showed an image of a primitive stone tool. "This was cutting-edge human technology once. When we needed to hunt bigger animals, we invented this." The image changed to a spear. "When we needed to hunt from farther away, we invented this." A bow and arrow appeared. "Every time we faced extinction, we changed the rules." He looked around the room. "The Vexeri think they know what humans can do. They've studied our weapons, our ships, our tactics, but they haven't seen what we can become when everything is on the line." That evening, Professor Taylor put on a uniform that hadn't fit him in 20 years. The United Space Federation needed every experienced officer they could find. In her laboratory on Mars, Dr. Olivia Grant had not slept in 3 days. Empty coffee cups littered her desk. Screens around her showed complex equations and diagrams. "Dr. Grant," said her assistant Ryan Powell, "you need to rest." "Not yet," she said, her eyes never leaving the screens. "It's almost ready." Before the war, Dr. Grant's research had been theoretical. Her quantum displacement drive was considered too dangerous to build. It could change the very fabric of space. If it worked, it would revolutionize space travel. If it failed, it could tear a hole in reality itself. "The simulations show a 42% chance of success," Ryan said. "That's up from 15% yesterday." Dr. Grant replied, "We're getting closer." She turned to face him finally. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they burned with determination. The Vexari think they know what they're fighting. They've seen our current ships, our current weapons, but they have no idea what's coming. On her main screen, the design for a new type of weapon took shape. If it worked, it would change the nature of space combat forever. If it failed, well, that hardly mattered now. In orbit around Jupiter, the first ships of the human counterattack were gathering. Vessels from all corners of human space formed the largest fleet ever assembled. At their center was the UNS Defiant, commanded by Daniel White. His ship wasn't the largest or most powerful, but it carried humanity's secret weapon. In his quarters, Commander White studied the classified orders he had just received. His mission would take him deep into enemy territory with almost no chance of return. He closed the file and whispered to himself, "The Vexari wanted a war. Let's show them how humans fight." Admiral Kraszik stood before a giant map of human space. In the 2 weeks since the attack on Proxima B, Vexari forces had taken 3 more human mining outposts. Each victory had been easy. The humans had offered little resistance. "Our progress exceeds all expectations," Kraszik told the Dominion High Command during their weekly meeting. "The human defenses fall quickly. Their ships retreat before engaging. At this rate, we will control all their outer systems within 30 days. The supreme leader of the Vexari Dominion, a massive creature with 6 eyes and golden scales, looked pleased. "Excellent, Admiral. The resources from these human systems will feed our expansion for the next 100 years. Only Commander Vexthu, Kraszik's second-in-command, seemed troubled. When the meeting ended, he approached the Admiral privately. "Something doesn't feel right," Vexthu said. "The humans are not fighting as our intelligence predicted they would, because they are weak," Kraszik replied. "No," Vexthu insisted. "They're not defending their territory at all. It's almost as if they want us to take these outposts." "Perhaps they have simply accepted defeat," Kraszik said with his grinding laugh. "No species accepts defeat this easily," Vexthu said. "They're waiting for something." On the UNS Defiant, Commander Daniel White prepared his crew for their mission. The ship looked like a small cargo transport, the kind that carried supplies between mining outposts. Nothing about it suggested danger. "Our mission is simple but vital," White told his small crew of 20. "We will approach the edge of Vexari territory posing as a damaged civilian transport. Our distress signal will claim engine failure. When they bring us in for capture, we deploy our cargo." In the ship's hold were 5 small drones. Each was no bigger than a human hand. They looked harmless. They weren't. "These drones contain a virus created by USS cyber warfare," White explained. "Once deployed, they will infiltrate the Vexari network and spread throughout their systems. The virus won't shut down their technology. That would be too obvious. Instead, it will introduce tiny errors, a targeting system that's off by 1 degree, a sensor that occasionally misreads distances, small things that add up to big problems." Lieutenant Samantha Hughes, his operations officer, raised a hand. "Won't they detect the drones?" "The drones use Vexari parts we salvage from their attacks. As far as their sensors can tell, the drones are Vexari tech." "And if we're discovered?" asked another officer. Commander White's face grew serious. "Then we fight until we can't. This mission is worth the sacrifice." Meanwhile, in a distant part of the galaxy, the Galactic Council of Elders had called an emergency session. Elder Zilvan addressed the council with grave news. "The Vexari have attacked human settlements. They have destroyed a human diplomatic vessel. War has begun." The council chamber filled with concerned murmurs. Elder Toll spoke up. "We must intervene. The humans must be protected." "Not protected," Elder Zilvan corrected. "The Vexari must be protected." Confusion spread through the chamber. "Have you forgotten why we warned against provoking humans?" Zilvan asked. "It is not because humans are fragile. It is because they are dangerous when threatened." Elder Xantal, the oldest of all the elders, rose slowly from his seat. "I will go to the Vexari. I will make one final attempt to stop this before it is too late. 3 days later, Elder Xontal's ship arrived at the Vexeri Command Center. The ancient being, his skin like translucent paper over glowing light, was escorted to Admiral Krazik's office. The council sent one of their oldest members, Krazik said with mock respect. I am honored. I come with a warning, not honor, Xontal said. His voice was soft but carried strange power. Cease your war against the humans immediately. Krazik laughed. We have taken 4 of their systems with minimal losses. Their outposts fall before our might. Why would we stop now? Because you do not understand what you face. Xontal said. The humans do not fight as others do. What you see as weakness is patience. What you see as fear is calculation. What I see is victory, Krazik snapped. Elder Xontal shook his head sadly. The humans have a saying from their ancient wars. All warfare is based on deception. They are letting you advance. They are studying you. And when they strike back, it will not be as you expect. Your council has grown soft and fearful in your long peace, Krazik said. The Vexeri Dominion fears no species, especially not humans. Elder Xontal turned to leave. At the door, he paused. We will remember that we tried to prevent what comes next. After the elder left, Commander Vexthu approached his admiral. Perhaps we should consider the elder's warning. Nonsense, Krazik said. Prepare the fleet for our next assault. We move on the human colony at Alpha Centauri in 2 days. As you command, Admiral, Vexthu said, but doubt had taken root in his mind. Admiral Krazik's smile faded as he stared at the main communication screen. For the 3rd time today, the link to his forward fleet had failed. What is happening? He demanded. Why can't we maintain contact with our ships? The Vexeri communication officer worked frantically at his station. Unknown, Admiral. The system shows all green, but messages aren't getting through. And when they do, they're full of errors. This had been happening for days now. First, small glitches in non-critical systems, then navigation errors. Now entire communication networks failing. Across the Vexeri fleet, confusion was spreading. Could it be human sabotage? Asked Commander Vexthu. Impossible, Krazik insisted. Their technology is too primitive to affect our quantum networks. At that moment, alarms blared throughout the command center. Admiral, shouted the sensor officer. We're detecting a large energy signature at the edge of the system. A moment later, a human battle group led by the UNS Resolute appeared out of light speed. Admiral Patricia Johnson stood on the bridge, watching the Vexeri ships scramble to respond. They're having trouble coordinating, noted her tactical officer. Admiral Johnson allowed herself a small smile. Commander White's mission was successful then. The virus is working. The UNS Resolute and its 5 escort ships moved in perfect formation. Each captain knew exactly what to do without needing constant communication. They had practiced this attack 100 times in simulation. All ships engage as planned, Admiral Johnson ordered. Remember your targets. The human vessels were outnumbered 4-1, but they moved with deadly precision. The Resolute fired its main cannons at the largest Vexeri cruiser. The shots hit with perfect accuracy. In his command ship, Admiral Krazik watched in shock as his fleet struggled to mount an organized defense. Our targeting systems are off by 2 degrees, reported the weapons officer. Manual correction isn't working. Shields are fluctuating at random intervals, called another officer. Commander Vexthu's face showed growing alarm. Admiral, we should withdraw and regroup. No, Krazik shouted. We will not retreat from humans. On Mars, Dr. Olivia Grant and Ryan Powell monitored the battle through encrypted channels. The screens in their lab showed the movements of both fleets. The virus is working better than expected, Ryan said. Their systems are showing errors across the board. Dr. Grant nodded but didn't look up from her work. Phase 1 is working. Now we need Phase 2 to be ready. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, making final adjustments to the quantum displacement drive. "The calculations are complete," she said finally. "The drive is ready for deployment." She sent a heavily encrypted message to USF Command. "Package ready for delivery." Back on Earth, USF Intelligence Corps Director Paul Bennett received Dr. Grant's message. He immediately called President Davis. "The QDD is ready, Mr. President. We can deploy it within 48 hours. President Davis looked tired. 2 weeks of war had aged him visibly. "How confident are we in this technology?" "Dr. Grant reports a 68% chance of success," Bennett said, "and the remaining 32%. Director Bennett hesitated. "Catastrophic failure that could potentially create a small black hole." The president closed his eyes for a moment. "We've lost over 1,000 people already. The Vexeri still hold our miners as prisoners. If there's a chance to end this quickly—" He opened his eyes, approved the deployment. Meanwhile, Commander White's mission had reached its most dangerous phase. The UNS Defiant had successfully infiltrated Vexeri space. The drones had been deployed and were spreading the virus through enemy networks. Now they needed to escape. "Engines at full power," White ordered. "Let's get out of here before they realize what happened." But as the Defiant turned to leave Vexeri space, 3 patrol ships appeared directly in their path. "They've spotted us," said Lieutenant Hughes. "They're moving to intercept." Commander White's face showed no fear. "We knew this might be a one-way trip. Arm all weapons. If we go down fighting." On the Vexeri command ship, Admiral Kraszik watched his fleet's formation crumble under the precise human attack. 3 of his ships had already been disabled. The humans were targeting engines and weapons systems with surgical precision, avoiding life support whenever possible. For the first time since the war began, Kraszik felt something new: doubt. "How are they doing this?" he whispered. "How did they get inside our systems?" Commander Vexthu approached him slowly. "Admiral," the human saying that Elder Xantal mentioned, "all warfare is based on deception. I believe we have been deceived." Admiral Kraszik stared at the battle display. The glorious victory he had promised the Dominion was turning into a humiliating defeat. "Order all ships to fall back to defensive positions," he said finally. "We need to regroup and figure out what's happening to our systems." As the Vexeri fleet began its retreat, Admiral Johnson did not pursue. The first phase of humanity's counterattack was complete. The Vexeri were about to learn that humans were just getting started. The Vexeri Dominion High Command was not pleased. Admiral Kraszik stood before them, trying to explain his failure. "The humans have used some kind of virus to infect our systems," he said. "It was unexpected." "Unexpected." The Supreme Leader's voice was cold. "You assured us humans were primitive and weak." "They were. They are," Kraszik insisted. "This is a temporary setback." The Supreme Leader's 6 eyes blinked slowly. "You are relieved of command, Admiral Kraszik. Return to your home world and await judgment." A tall Vexeri female with silver scales stepped forward. "Grand Admiral Zex Era will take command of our forces," said the Supreme Leader. "She will crush this human resistance." Grand Admiral Zex Era had won 12 campaigns against various species. She had never known defeat. She studied the battle reports with careful eyes. "The humans are clever," she admitted, "but their advantage is temporary. Our technicians are already working to remove their virus from our networks." She pointed to a star map. "I will bring our 3 Dreadnought-class ships from the home system. Each one can destroy a small moon. We will move directly to Earth and end this war with one decisive strike." On the moon, inside a secret hangar, Dr. Grant supervised the loading of her quantum displacement drive onto 3 modified freighters. The ships looked like ordinary cargo vessels, but they had been heavily reinforced to withstand the drive's energy. "Each ship can only use the drive once," she explained to Captain Laura Martinez. "The energy buildup will destroy the engine after activation." Captain Martinez nodded. Her face was serious. And what exactly will happen when we activate it? The drive will create a quantum displacement field around your target. For about 30 seconds, the fabric of space itself will distort. Everything inside the field will shift position slightly. How slightly? Just a few meters, but that's enough. Captain Martinez didn't fully understand, but she trusted Dr. Grant. My crew and I volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. We won't let you down. Meanwhile, on Earth, USF Intelligence Corps Director Paul Bennett briefed Admiral Johnson and General Clark on their discovery. We've analyzed all the intercepted Vexeri communications, he said. Their ships use a synchronized quantum shield system. Each vessel projects part of a larger shield that protects the entire fleet. What's the weakness? General Clark asked. The synchronization must be perfect, Bennett explained. If even one ship is out of position by more than 2 meters, the entire shield network collapses. Admiral Johnson leaned forward. And that's why Dr. Grant's drive is so important. It doesn't need to destroy their ships. It just needs to move them slightly out of formation. Exactly, Bennett said. Once their shield network fails, our ships can target their key systems and disable them without destroying the vessels. The plan was set. Captain Martinez and her crew would take the modified freighters, approach the Vexeri fleet as it moved toward Earth, and activate the quantum displacement drives. Then the main USF fleet, led by Admiral Johnson and General Clark in a rare joint command, would strike. 3 days later, the largest Vexeri fleet ever assembled entered Earth's solar system. 3 massive Dreadnought-class vessels led the way, surrounded by 50 smaller but still deadly ships. Grand Admiral Zexera stood on the bridge of the lead dreadnought. Our scans show human ships gathering near their planet Mars. They prepare to make a stand. The virus has been completely removed from our systems, reported her second-in-command. All ships are functioning at optimal levels. Good, said Zexera. Proceed toward Earth at attack speed. Our shields will easily absorb anything they throw at us. As the Vexeri fleet moved through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, their sensors detected 3 small freighters drifting nearby. Civilian vessels, said an officer. Cargo transports. No weapons detected. Ignore them, ordered Zexera. Focus on the human military ships. On one of the freighters, Captain Martinez watched the Vexeri fleet approach. Her hands were steady as she prepared to activate the drive. All ships in position, she reported over a secure channel. Targets locked. Drives charged and ready. From Mars orbit, Dr. Grant sent the activation code. Now, Captain. May luck be with you. Captain Martinez pressed the button. On all 3 freighters, the quantum displacement drives hummed to life. The space around the Vexeri fleet began to shimmer like heat waves over a desert. What is happening? Demanded Grand Admiral Zexera as alarms blared across her ship. Unknown energy field detected, shouted an officer. It's affecting our position in space. For 30 terrifying seconds, reality itself seemed to bend. When it stopped, the perfect formation of the Vexeri fleet was disrupted. Ships that had been precisely positioned were now meters away from where they should be. Shields are failing, came the panicked cry from multiple ships. The network synchronization is broken. In that moment, the main USF fleet appeared from behind Mars. At their head was the newly commissioned U.S. Victory, jointly commanded by Admiral Johnson and General Clark. All ships, attack pattern Alpha, ordered Admiral Johnson. Target engines and weapons only. We want those ships disabled, not destroyed. The battle for Earth had begun, and thanks to human ingenuity, the odds had just shifted dramatically. The battle above Earth lasted just 6 hours. When it ended, the mighty Vexeri fleet was in ruins. 2 of their massive dreadnought ships were completely disabled. The third was limping away on emergency power. Of their 50 smaller vessels, 37 had surrendered after their weapons and engines were destroyed by precise human attacks. Grand Admiral Zexera stood in shocked silence on her damaged bridge. Smoke filled the air. Most of her crew were injured. Her perfect record of victories was broken. "How?" she whispered. "How did they defeat our shields?" A message came through on the emergency channel. It was from Admiral Johnson of the human fleet. "Grand Admiral Zexera, this is Admiral Patricia Johnson. Your fleet is defeated. Your shields are down. Your weapons are disabled. Surrender now, and we will spare the lives of your remaining crews." Zexera closed her 4 eyes briefly. Then she gave the order she had never given before. "Send our surrender." 3 days later, Grand Admiral Zexera was brought to Earth. Her wounds had been treated by human doctors. She was escorted into a large room where human leaders waited around a long table. President Davis sat at the head. Admiral Johnson and General Clark stood nearby. "Grand Admiral," President Davis said, "you led an unprovoked attack against our people. You took our miners as prisoners. You destroyed our diplomatic vessel. By all rights, we could execute you as a war criminal." Zexera held her head high. "If that is your decision, I accept it. But that is not our decision," President Davis continued. "We offer you terms instead. Immediate withdrawal from all human systems, the release of all human prisoners, payment for the damage done to our outposts and vessels, and a treaty recognizing human territory as sovereign and inviolable." Zexera blinked in confusion. "You could destroy what remains of our fleet completely. You could attack our homeworlds. Why offer terms?" Admiral Johnson stepped forward. "Because total destruction is wasteful and inefficient. We fight only to neutralize threats, not to annihilate our enemies." "I don't understand," Zexera said. "No species has ever shown such restraint after a victory." "The elders understood this about us," General Clark said. "It's why they warned against provoking humans. Not because we are weak, but because we fight differently than other species." In the days that followed, a peace treaty was signed. The Vexeri withdrew from human space. The miners from Proxima B were released and returned home. Reparations were agreed upon. 1 month after the battle, the Galactic Council held a special session. For the first time, a human representative was invited to attend. Professor Jack Taylor, now returned to his academic role, stood before the assembled species. "The human race thanks the Council for this invitation," he began. "We regret that our introduction to the galactic community came through conflict." Elder Zilvin spoke. "The fault is not yours, Professor Taylor. The Council's warnings were ignored, but now, perhaps, they will be heeded." Professor Taylor nodded. "I come with a message from my government. Humanity does not seek dominion over others. We do not want war. But understand this clearly. We will defend ourselves and our allies with all the creativity and determination we possess." He looked around at the representatives of 100 different species. The Vexeri made a common mistake. They studied our weapons, our ships, our current technology. What they failed to understand is that humanity's greatest weapon has always been our ability to adapt, to innovate when our backs are against the wall. On the newly rebuilt mining station at Proxima B, Lisa Young stood looking out at the stars. She was the only survivor from the original attack, rescued when the Vexeri surrendered. Beside her stood Captain Frank Miller, now promoted to Admiral after his role in the war. "Do you think they've learned their lesson?" Lisa asked. "Will other species leave us alone now?" Frank Miller considered her question. "Some will, the smarter ones, but there's always someone who thinks they know better, who thinks they'll be the exception. And if they come?" Admiral Miller smiled. "Then we'll be ready. That's what humans do. We prepare. We adapt. We survive." Out in the vast reaches of space, other ambitious species took note of what had happened to the Vexeri. Many abandoned plans to expand into human territory. Some formed new alliances with the humans, seeking to learn from them. A few began to plot more carefully how they might succeed where the Vexeri had failed. But all remembered the warning that now hung in glowing letters in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. "The humans of Sol 3 desire peace above all, but when roused to war, They bring innovation that transforms the very nature of conflict. To provoke humanity is to invite not just defeat, but evolution of warfare itself.